council meeting. It is Monday, June 16th. Please rise. Hand over your heart. Join us in our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Mr. Officer will take the roll.
Ricky.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Here. Berger is absent. Canton.
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here.
This is a special council meeting, so we must adhere to the agenda. Finance Committee, a motion to approve the amended 2026 tax budget.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Motion to amend the 2026 tax budget. The budget includes estimated revenues for the general fund of $1,473,361, with estimated expenses of $1,655,849. Safety fund revenues of $2,024,243, and expenses of $2,100,524. Operating fund revenues of $564,287, and expenses of $609,330. Road and bridge fund revenues of $243,541, and expenses of $59,500. Special revenue fund revenues of $3,632,653, and expenses of $3,424,395. Capital project fund revenues of $2,931,975, and expenses of $2,640,711. And fiduciary fund revenues of $120,000 and expenses of $120,000. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We are now at the street committee. Motion to hire a new street department employee. I'll try to talk first before we do that. Ruth, if that's okay?
You said you'd like to talk?
Yeah,
Yes,
if I could
please.
talk first. Way we found a new street department employee, we put out ads. We had 19 people apply. We interviewed 5 in the first round. We interviewed 3 in the second round. The recipient, or the person we selected, has met all of the council members. We checked 3 references, talked to 2 former teachers. We had 1 letter of support, an unsolicited letter of support. He will undergo a background check, which I think he's already completed, and there'll be a drug screening. So I'd like to ask a motion to employ Ronald Quinn as a new street department employee once the background check, drug screening, everything is complete.
I move that we hire Ron Quinn for the full-time position for the street department.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Next group is a motion to create a street department clothing policy. Coming around to you is a printed version, so please take a look. This is the policy. We also have some changes in the handbook. I would say we would motion to create, we simply want to get this discussion going now.
So is this a motion that we create a policy or adopt the policy that you have provided?
We would not adopt this policy tonight because some people are seeing it for the first time. Do you have any?
Why do we need a motion to create one? I thought we were in the process of creating a policy between streets and HR.
I agree, I don't know why we need a motion to create a policy.
We need a motion to adopt a policy, I think.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of varying opinions on this for the amounts more than anything else. And I think this is going to be like a 3 or 4 way split. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I noticed on this version of the draft, the HR committee had a lengthy conversation about this at our last meeting, you all probably saw in our minutes. And I don't see any provisions at all that we suggested in here. So at this time, Councilman Berger's not here either, but as far as the HR committee, I can't support this as written until we dig deeper into it.
I don't think we want a motion tonight. I think we want to just get started on the discussion. So maybe we don't want to say the whole idea of a motion. What this policy is simply a revision of the police department policy, and I revised it to reflect the street department. We had some meetings with HR and some meetings with the street department. It's a introductory time right now to take a look at it, but it does have some features that I'd like for you to really consider. As I said, it follows the pretty much the police policy. Under item 1, the purpose is pretty obvious. Item number 2, the policy is pretty obvious, but we did put in there that the program would be managed by the street commissioner. The other 3 bullets under policy are pretty much procedure. Now, the issue is, we are changing what we do. We would have the people get certain uniforms from certain providers, and then that would be the startup cost that you see here. And then after that year, they would receive a maximum of $300 to order what they would want to keep the clothing going. So this is just a proposal to start this. Now, under general, a couple things that caught the eye. I think one of them, Chris, I think we talked about was the idea of $1,200 or how much. I think the police is $1,500, and I think that when we had talked to HR, I think it was like 1,000 is what you'd recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on the back of this sheet, I went through a normal order from a person, came up with it'd be about $1,171 if you started out, say, fresh, brand new employees.
Yeah, these like shorts are $27 each, I would imagine.
Yes.
Okay. Because I was wondering where anybody would get 7 pairs of pants for $33. You know, unless it's maybe, I don't know, Goodwill or something.
Beijing.
Okay. The only other big change under general would be under boots. Boots and shoe-related items, such as laces, waterproofing. That is added on. That's different than what we've ever done before. But the idea would be 2 pair of boots per year. And that's what I think we were down to 1 pair, right?
We had a hard time with the $500 and 2 pairs a year.
Okay. So that's something we'll be discussing. The other thing that I just put this in when I looked at another municipality, would be when the invoice is returned for reimbursement of the amount of the invoice. Some people can order and find steel-toed boots for $249, let's say. Somebody can find 2 pairs of steel-toed boots for $249. So the thought was just say you have this amount of money, you know, you buy 1 pair, you buy the top of the line, or you buy cheaper. That's your decision. So that was one of the things we talked about. And again, I think HR was $250 a year. Okay? On the back side, I've seen different versions of what's taxed and not taxed. So I just put up the word not because I don't know the difference. So this is something, I think this whole thing basically goes to the solicitor to look at. And then finally, on the $1,200 for startup, I took Orange Village. What they do is they give every employee a packet, about 30 pages. Pardon me, it's 3 pages a person. and it lists everything that you can buy. And you go through and you can order up to $300 to replace what you have.
So for year two,
What's that?
for year two.
For year two, you would just have $300. After you get started the first year. I mean, you're not gonna be buying, hopefully, $140 parka every year. So this is a thought.
Mayor,
Sure.
the receipts from these purchases, are they given to the village hall?
I guess we do a normal policy, which I think the receipts go to you, or they go to you.
Well, HR's recommendation was the street commissioner, it would be his responsibility to track every employee's, the amount they spend, but then he'd have to give them to me to pay the bill.
Is this reimbursement or?
We would have with the way HR understood it, would be an account through Arborware.
Okay.
And then, each employee would have so much to spend, but the street commissioner would do the tracking and then submit the bills.
So they basically self-track with their own
Well,
receipts.
So originally, the Arborware was the way that I had suggested, talking with Orange Village and then a few other municipalities have followed suit with Orange. And it is, they supply that list, you pick off that list, every employee does, and then there's one PO board sent to that company that handles it all. And it's done, there is no cash going from the village or city to the employee and then back. You know, it's just, here's the list, you pick your things, we order them, they invoice us, we pay them.
So they'd have a deadline to order
Correct.
per year.
That's how it's been working for the other cities that are starting to follow suit.
I have two observations, and I just feel like we're getting all off in the weeds here. The Walton Hills and Newberry, very different departments than us as far as providing for their schools as a municipality. We never hear, well, not never, we rarely hear people complaining about what we spend to make any of our employees comfortable. And with that, my biggest thing, with some knowledge of feet, old age, hard workers outside, $400, $500 is not excessive for boots at all, when you add in that steel-toed business. These guys are using these daily. They're on their feet all day.
You know, from $250 in January and $250 in.
I think it'd be great. I would compromise, but they gotta be comfortable.
And safety too.
They're on their feet, and it's not a it's not a always 5-day-a-week job. They're outside, they're doing things.
Here's my suggestion. Our next council meeting is July 14th. HR is not till the 15th. Is it possible that HR, the streets, now, street employees have not seen this final version. So, is it possible that streets and HR could get together and come back to us in July with a proposal? As I said, this is what I wrote, so I think it needs some work.
Yeah, we can, when Chris is back in town, we can figure out a
I'm
day
wide open.
that works. We can,
Banning the lottery, no more vacations for Ruth this summer.
sorry to hear that.
Just one observation, Mayor, it says things apply to startup employees and then full-time employees. I didn't see part-time employees. Do they get 300 allowance as well, or how does that work?
I didn't put that in because it doesn't, right now, it would just muddy the issue because we don't have any part-time employees. I did put it in
Okay.
the revised handbook changes, so I came up with.
Okay,
Again,
because it says up here the allowance for full-time and part-time, and then it goes on from there.
it's
Are
probably.
you around, Dennis, this summer to do that?
Maybe.
Yeah, any given day. So we'll find a day when Chris is back between the two committees.
Coming next year, coming out next is proposed changes to the policy. And those will go, I think, right to the solicitor. Those were written by me. I just want to use this process along. It seemed to be taking quite a bit of time.
Oh, yeah. Part-time.
Yeah. So, street commissioner, I'll get you copies for your guys. You'll handle that with them. street committee and the HR committee will get together hopefully before the 14th, so we can get this out. All right, proposed new salt building, Ruth.
New salt building. Ruth is gonna turn that over pretty fast to the engineer, and he's going to tell you the update.
Sure. Is that my cue?
That's your
Okay. So we received proposal packages from three interested parties that all passed our initial qualifications check. The streets department, or the streets committee, really coalesced around the proposal package from CMG, with their base, with the base amount for the building. They gave us two options for the concrete that surrounds the building, either 6 inches, which is your standard like driveway thickness concrete, or 8-inch concrete, which is more of a commercial thickness concrete. And we determined that the 8-inch thick concrete for the traffic around the salt dome with the trucks and the loader would probably be much more durable long-term than the 6-inch concrete would. And they also gave us they proposed a $20,000 electrical allowance, which is, okay, we'll allocate this money and we'll spend it as needed. The $20,000 that they came up with was a really conservative number, thinking that, we may have to put a new power drop in and set a couple poles and get power over this building if that's what the village wants. What's, all likelihood going to occur is we set a new pole box over the top of the conduit that already powers the existing salt building and put a 90-degree conduit from there and cut it going to the existing salt building and just run it over to the new one. That's not going to come anywhere near the $20,000 electrical allowance, but the electrical allowance is there, and we only pay for what we actually use out of it. So with the electrical allowance, the thickened 8-inch concrete slab around the building and the building itself, we're at around $689,704.
Main thing is,
Councilman Kent.
Thank you. I'm always interested in the thought process. And I want to thank the street committee and streets commissioner and everyone who's worked on this study. I mean, this took a while. I consider this to be a three-legged stool. First leg, we need this. We need it. Our storage area is about to collapse. So there's definitely a need, which is very important. Second leg, as you know, I've been speaking with Jim Mueller at Russell Township. I've also been speaking to their road supervisor, and he's clarified a few points, if I may comment. They do have an auxiliary road salt building. It holds capacity of approximately 150 tons of salt. But they also have a pole building that holds anywhere between 1,400 and 1,600 tons of salt. Last winter, they used 1,600 tons of salt, and they have just below 108 lane miles of roads. On the other hand, we have 52 lane miles of roads, and we use approximately 1,000 to 1,500 tons of salt a year. Something to think about. But that third leg is what we have to think about. It's important to have vision. I don't see us increasing our lane miles here in South Russell. But 15 years, if we don't do this, 15 years from now, there's going to be a council here. And they're going to be looking at building something, and they're going to say, that council back in 2025, they had the money earmarked. Why didn't they build the doggone thing then when it was $700,000 Now we gotta pay 1.9 million.
You mean as opposed to doing nothing now? I'm lost.
Correct, like, I mean, let's say we, build a makeshift storage area for.
We're not doing that.
I'm just saying, yes. 10, 15 years from now, council might say, well, why did they do that? Why-
Bill's gonna be the only one left around.
But you get my point.
And
The engineer will still be here.
Not likely.
But you get my point, anytime we hold off, it always costs more.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I already have my eyes on when the salt dome comes down. I have some ideas that I want there, and I bet I'm gonna get a fight. Anyway,
Okay, that's all I
Yes,
have.
I appreciate what the engineer's done. I appreciate what Tim's done, adding those extra wings to put equipment, I think is a great idea. It's gonna look good. Dennis, what do you have to say about it?
You wanna make that motion, Liz?
Well, no, we have
Are we still
legislation.
talking?
There's legislation for that.
It's down in the ordinance.
Oh, so that would, okay.
Okay, Fairview Hemlock Group.
Can I have a question real quick for the engineer?
Excuse me.
So if we do the ordinance tonight, what do you think the scheduled time looks like?
Well, I already put CMG on notice that you're likely council is likely choosing you to award to, and they're like, okay, thanks for the heads up. I think they're gonna be building this thing in the fall.
This fall?
Yeah.
Okay, that's better than we heard before, so that's good. All right, so-
Okay, Fairview Hemlock, turn it over to Eric.
Yeah, Fairview Hemlock, and I know Mark's gonna listen real carefully. We discussed this today, we had a streets meeting today, so there's no minutes ready yet. Go ahead, Eric, because I felt much better after listening to you.
Sure, we're talking about this year's culvert replacement at Fairview Hemlock.
Yes,
Which is really, pardon me, it's really kind of public utilities. We overlap sometimes.
Yeah,
All right, that's all it ends up on him. That's all.
but Mark did a lot of work with it last year, too.
he certainly did.
Yeah.
So we are in the process of getting everything together for our bid documents to get that project out to bid. The county engineer asked that we do a little bit more expansive of a stormwater study for, and we needed to do it anyhow to size the pipe properly to figure out, what properties and what parcels are draining ultimately to this thing. The county engineer asked us to take a look at an expanded scope of that as to downstream. We look at, to size the pipe, I look at everything that comes to it. And I did give a cursory look just as due diligence to, is it gonna cause problems downstream? And I came to a pretty quick assessment of, no, I don't think so. But the county engineer would like a little more than my bar napkin sketch of here's the flow, here's what handles, here's topography. No, I don't think so. So we're gonna need a couple of more weeks to get that analysis done. We're not talking dollars here, it's time. Because we have to do all of that anyhow for the headwater analysis. It doesn't cost any more per se dollars, maybe $1,000 or $2. I can absorb that in my fee. But the time, it's going to add time. So we're looking at bidding this thing out in July. And with that timetable, we're looking at a fall and into winter construction and completion with the grass restoration, final grading in the spring of 2026. Similar to what we did for the Bell Road East Culvert that we completed last year. So that went into, spring for the grass and the grass and the grading, but all the work was done, in the fall throughout the previous year, so.
Is council authorized you to go out for bids yet?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
The other thing, you may have already said it, I'm trying to listen. So what the engineer wants is more on the Russell Township side.
Yeah.
And we still split 50-50. That's interesting. And I am one of the lucky kids that has not been so far down that ravine, but walked alongside of it that would be on the west side of the ravine. That goes right out to the river. It's gorgeous property.
Oh, it is.
But
There's a lot of water.
Eric says that it hits a couple of subdivision properties in a little way around there too. So a little bit to think about.
Yeah, I thought it was fair that the county engineer asked us to just take a more detailed look at downstream rather than focusing everything on.
But it also has the Hazelwood.
This should be a 1 week job. 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're gonna park their equipment there, then they're gonna, wait a couple of days to start. And they're gonna be able to get that pipe across in maybe a week and change. The actual physical impact to the roadway, let's round and say 2 weeks.
So, I asked this at the meeting, but I didn't think of this part. The people that take Walters and Hemlock out to the county or vice versa, that's gonna be closed as
Oh,
well.
they're gonna hate it for a short
Well,
period of
it's
time.
easy hate, so you'd have to come down 87 and go into town that way, or Bell Road.
You can find your way around, and we'll post a detour route.
Chief, we should, so Fairview's gonna take the brunt, Fairview will take the brunt of the traffic again, and we'll do what we normally have to do.
Absolutely.
For that one.
We'll get notification out and, social media.
Notification to the houses.
Yeah, we can do that with the new system.
Right now, they love us on Fairview, so it's not.
You keep the love going.
We'll do.
I think the street commissioner was gonna do flyers or something, or are we just gonna do the reverse, texting option, or do both?
We could do both.
Well,
Like,
notify residents by text about what's going on.
Yeah.
And a flyer in the mailbox when, the bids has been made, and the description of the work, and when it might be done, and that kind of thing.
Maybe we should, a little letter to them saying, this is what we've done the past few years. This is what we're doing to control your water, but be prepared during this week. You're gonna have people, we'll figure out something maybe from the past.
Yeah.
So we need to take a look.
We have an estimated start date.
No, okay. At this point, no.
Sometime in September or.
Sure.
Sure,
School buses, everything.
yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like before school is a possibility.
No, the timing on it is definitely during school or after the start of school, unfortunately.
Right, Chief, I see you making a note over the thing.
And,
Right,
not everybody has that text option, so I think probably Tim putting flyers in, that's important.
Can we do that for the culvert on Bell Road East?
You guys did a really good job. I don't know what you did internally, probably I should be looking at you, Chief. But you guys did a really good job on advance notice. I mean, the contractor will come in and we'll require him to post signs for traffic control and everything. And those generally get posted at least a week ahead of time to let,
That was prior to the new app, and we just use social media basically. So now we've got the app and we can actually target a geofence around Fairview and surrounding areas just to get those households notified. So well, even better methods.
Yeah, whatever you did for the Bell Road East culvert, that worked out great.
Perfect.
So,
Tim put signs up way before where you'd have to turn.
I knocked on doors,
Did you?
and I visited each resident and talked to each resident, left them my information if they had any more questions, and I did that to the directly affected residents, a few houses either side of the project.
You plan on doing that for Fairview, Tim?
I think so, I think that's a good idea, and also countryside too.
Yeah.
We'll fly on countryside and, targeting the houses for the pipes that need replaced or refueled.
Chief, you just double the fact, the cruisers coming up and down that, Fairview will probably be double.
We will, absolutely.
All right, Ruth, you're still up, 2026,
I know, so-
2025 road program.
I'm gonna start with road program and then Eric's gonna take it over. It's gonna be countryside. Let's see, we've advertised the bids. We have countryside and miscellaneous repairs. And then the reclamate, that's just extra.
correct?
It should be June 27th.
That's our targeted advertising for bids date, yes.
And somehow I have the 4th of July written in there, so that's why you're gonna take over, because nobody's doing streets on the 4th of July.
Yeah. Our timetable looks like this. If we advertise our first notification of advertisements Friday, the 27th, or thereabouts. Our second would be July 4th, or thereabouts. And then we would open the bids on July 11th,
11th at 12 noon.
in
yes.
advance of our July 14th council meeting.
Okay, great. So there we are. Countryside will be happy. We hope.
And our budgets for those are $320,000 for the work on Countryside and the miscellaneous surface repairs that we typically do throughout the village, and reserving another $27,000 or so for Reclamite after, for a grand total of around $350,000. The work that we advertise and execute contracts for will total, my estimate for that work is $320,000. The village has learned that we could save about 5% off the cost of Reclamite if we just hired the company that does it directly versus asking a contractor to hire the Reclamite folks and then mark it up and invoice us. So that's just something that's easy for us to do. It's just like a crack ceiling, you can do that directly. But altogether, all in, $320,000 for the asphalt road program, $27,000 for Reclamite.
Okay,
That's enough of streets, unless anybody has a question.
oh, thank you. Fiscal officer, we have enough for the, basically the 350 for the.
Yeah, we amended the budget at the last council meeting. I'm just waiting for the budget commission to certify it.
Okay, we are now at the property committee.
All right, I've asked to introduce a motion by the property committee chair, who's absent today. Just a little bit of background. This motion has to deal with the corner lot that used to be occupied by the dental office and the insurance building right there that were taken down. And we've been kicking this issue around for about 4 to 6 weeks right now. There has been some questions at previous council meetings about the trees and whether they need to be taken down and everything like that. And what I intend to do is introduce the motion, and then if any council members have questions about it, feel free to ask the questions and we can answer them collectively as best as we possibly can.
Okay, do we have a second?
So I haven't introduced the motion, Mayor. Okay, that was background. Okay, I am proposing to make a motion to direct the street commissioner, as time and schedule permit, to landscape the southeast corner lot, the former art studio, by removing 3 trees currently marked with yellow caution tape, remove all asphalt, brick, and curbing surfaces, and curbing on the east side of the property, leveling the property so that all the land is level. After leveling of the corner lot begins, the corner lot will no longer be used for parking for any events, and the lot will be circled with yellow caution tape to prevent a vehicle driving onto the new landscaping. Such work will be completed no later than 31 December 2025. Some notes, not a part of the motion. Farmers market vendors and shoppers will be directed to park behind the PD once the demolition begins. The mayor will contact ODOT and Verdantis, and I believe Verdantis has already indicated that there are no future possibly unknown plans for the corner lot and the intersection. And the property committee will discuss phase 2 of this property at future committee meetings for completion targeted in 2026. So,
Second discussion.
I'll just say again, I hate that the trees are coming down right now with no plan already, but I think removing that blacktop is important for stormwater mitigation right now. So as long as phase 2, give me some stinking trees in this village. I'm okay with it.
So David Kavanaugh, not a member of this council, said those are not valuable trees, plant something else that's
Good with
not
that.
invasive.
No,
Trees are the-
That's like a
That up there now,
pear.
I think there's a crab apple, and two old, broke down people.
and one of the things that had been discussed in previous iterations of the motion is that, the phraseology would be talking to potentially replacement of trees. So to help mitigate the situation.
Absolutely.
The other thing, we would look very current, these wildflower gardens where they take 2 or 3 years to establish, they can be really beautiful. Doesn't have to be the whole thing.
I think once you see
Yeah,
the open
slice
property,
of it
we
rather
can
than
start
grass.
talking about what we want to do.
All right.
Anything else?
That's basically.
Just for your information, there was an activity last week on Tree City USA, something we're looking into.
Oh, very cool.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Just to let you know, I'm assuming that when you take down those 3 trees, the 2 out here that you can see, and the one in front of the police department will go also at the same time.
Have they had it? Have those trees had it?
Just in front of the PD, it's a standing dead, and these are.
One further tidbit of information before we move on from the subject. It was the feeling of the Properties Committee that work began as soon as possible, schedule allowing, for this particular construction project or destruction project to take place. So, and not necessarily to delay it until early fall, but as time permits, we can actually start the process immediately if needed. So,
Anything else from properties?
nothing further.
Safety Committee,
Safety Committee, we have received a letter of retirement from Lieutenant Todd Posek. To discuss details, I offer that we go into executive session at the end of this meeting, unless there's an opposition to that. People want to talk more in depth. You okay with that?
No opposition.
Okay. So why don't we hold off on the motion until after we talk in executive session?
okay, anything else from safety? Public utilities, we're back to Fairview, Mark.
We are, just to add on to what the engineer said, what's already been discussed. I think we'll just visit the Russell trustees once we've made the bid, put the job out for bid, because that's a concrete, truly concrete stuff.
Right, then we'll have real dollar
And we'll
numbers.
have real dollars shortly when we get our bids back, and also bring the grant paperwork that you provided, and the letter we got from, what was that, PwC, right?
Yep.
Saying it's gonna match up to half the cost of the job itself. I think Jerry wanted to come along with that, and see the trustees. Yes. All right, so once we bid out after the 14 July meeting, then we'll figure out when the next meeting is, and then keep them up to speed.
Right, our current estimate on that project is $92,400, and OPWC was willing to give us 50% of that, half, $46,200 in grant.
At
So-
most, right?
At most, that's max. So we would be taking our local remaining $46,200 local share and splitting that with the township
They've been appraised that the bill for them would be somewhere in that.
in that vicinity, yeah.
Without having extra dollars, eventually we will. So, and completion of that job fairly soon. This year, right?
Oh, this year, yeah.
Want to move on to the solid waste management plan there?
Please.
See on your agenda is the discussion of a solid waste management plan for Geauga and Trumbull County, solid waste districts. Fundamentally, they sent out a letter on April 9, 2025, which I think people got in their packets. Ultimately, they are going to have this plan as required by Ohio EPA to update it, and they're going, the bottom line is they're gonna increase the amount they're going to collect from the recipients of their recycling by $2, from $5.50 to $7.50, and generate more revenue to encourage recycling within the city, villages, townships, in Geauga County.
So just so we understand that, is that for the big things like refrigerators and that kind of stuff that they take?
Everything.
Everything, okay. It's fair enough.
And there's also language in there encouraging villages and townships in Chardon, if they don't already, to offer curbside recycling. And my recollection is that Waste Management and Dumpster Bandit will do that kind of thing for a small fee for residents. That private part isn't in here, which I find surprising because, if you're not close to a recycling center, what else are you gonna do?
We're pretty lucky with recycling centers all around us.
We are, and, I understand Russell is pretty good about keeping that going too. So they asked for an ordinance in support of their new plan. And if there are questions, by all means, stop me and ask.
One question.
Sure.
I may have heard this wrong, but they're increasing their fees
Yes.
to encourage people to recycle more for, it seems incongruous. We're going to charge you more money to recycle to encourage you to recycle.
Well, the facilities that receive the recycled material from Geauga Trumbull will be paying $7.50 a ton under this plan rather than $5.50.
Okay.
So in essence, residents put the recycling in bins where they're appropriate, Geauga Trumbull gathers it up, and then it sends to the recycling facility and they charge money, $7.50 per ton, is what they're holding, in order to raise money for their trucks and all these other things that they buy. And we don't see it down here in, southwest corner. I don't think Bainbridge sees it much either, but Chardon certainly does. And they're going to use the extra money for improved services.
Well, the only thing I can say is that I hope it works because I know in previous lives, the vendors that used to take recycled materials to reuse them or take them overseas to dump, got out of the business because of profitability. So I hope it all works.
Well, I do too, and to that end, Mayor, should we do it now? You wanna wait?
Yeah, it's not, we're rolling.
All right, so I'd like to introduce an ordinance approving the solid waste management plan for the Geauga Trumbull Solid Waste Management District, declaring an emergency, move to waive further readings.
I second.
Roll call.
Galicki.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Galicki.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Mayor, you let them know, Danielle, you let them know that we approved this, because they had a timeline on this.
Yeah, so as soon as the mayor signs it, I'll email it to them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Ordinance approved. All right. Park Committee.
Park Committee.
All right. I've got the Parks Committee, and this is a controversial motion, okay, only from the aspect that we held a Park Committee meeting last week, largely to discuss the Fall Festival. And I have both Councilman Canton and Councilman Kavanaugh who were there as well. It appeared at the meeting that the vast majority, without exception, including the mayor and all the park committee members, appeared to support the premise that we hold the park fall festival on October 5th with no rain date or weather date associated with it. The chairman of the Parks Committee met with the mayor this morning to discuss the issue. And it appears now that the Park Committee chair and the Properties Committee chair has provided me with a modified motion to have the Fall Festival on September 28th with an alternative rain date the following Sunday, October 5th. So this is what I'm about to introduce. It's kind of in contravention to what was discussed at the meeting, and if any council members have a question, I was not at the meeting with Councilman Berger and the mayor, so I've just been faced with introducing this motion. So with that, I will move that the Park Committee has recommended to council to have the Fall Festival 2025 on October 5th with no rain date. The members of the Property Committee Chair, have taken such recommendation under advisement and would like to offer the following motion. A motion to approve the Fall Festival for September 28th and an alternate rain date as the following Sunday, October 5th, and direct the members of the Park Committee and village employees to commence their work in organizing the vendors, party supplies, foodstuffs in support of the Fall Festival accordingly. So
I have some comments.
Yes, we need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Discussion, so one of the things was Ted Cruzy, who has volunteered a lot in time and money over a decade or more. He was fully in favor of 10-5, and we need to respect him for that. That's number one. Number two, and I know all our boards, all our people work just as hard as the Park Committee, but this Fall Festival is exhausting. And they were solidly in favor of 10-5 without a rain date. So those are just two things to chew on in making your vote, and I get it. Initially, that's what I wanted, was September 28th with the rain date. We have to make sure, and this requires, Libby Sharkey is the one that does the bulk of the work. We have to ask if the 28th doesn't go forward because the weather's lousy, can we get money back if the weather's lousy on the 5th, or will they show up on the 5th? It gets intricate. There's a lot of phone calls and things going on. That's my comments.
Okay, as you all know, I've been working very closely with that committee for the last 9 years, and they have given us some excellent advice down through those years. If we go with the 2 days, this might be the first time we went against their wishes. Although they are an advisory board, they offer advice, and then it's up to council to determine whether or not we go along with that advice. But they've given us some wonderful advice. We've been blessed with some beautiful weather, but lately not so much. So I see the relevance of having a rain date.
We did a rain date two years ago
Yeah.
where I froze to
I
death.
really see that being important. But I also understand the logistics. I mean, it's terrible.
It's a lot of planning. It's planning a wedding that you put off till the next week.
Right.
the other issue that, may assist in decision-making was that the Parks Committee seemed to be in favor of not supplying food to the residents this year, okay? No hot dogs. And that in lieu of supplying food, we would have food trucks available so that people wanted to purchase food or ice cream, that they could do it at the Fall Festival. And that would then eliminate, if there was inclement weather, should it be held on the 28th, we wouldn't have to worry about what happens to the food as well. So, but to your point, Jerry, to Ruth's point, it was a very unanimous issue with the Parks Committee and all in attendance that it be held in October. So, again, please further discussion in terms of this issue here.
Well, the only other thing, our loyal employees have put on their kitchen aprons and done the food, and they're tired.
I'm done. I'm not doing it.
And I
told you.
I
last
totally
time.
understand it because I couldn't wrap those hot dogs fast enough. They got picked up. That's a lot of work. That's all. I do appreciate what all you have done over the years, including bringing spouses to wrap.
Well, I do like the idea of the food trucks.
Now, talking with Councilman Berger today after his meeting with the mayor, he thought there was something American about hot dogs at the Fall Festival and very homey. And I understand his point, but, there seems to be a big difference of opinion here going forward.
So out of respect for our volunteers, and it's hard to get volunteers, I'm hesitant to go against their wish for October 5th. And I understand their advisory and we can do whatever. To me, choosing the date is minor. So if I'm gonna try to go against the park committee or fight against them, it's not gonna be over a date for the fall festival. It would probably be over something more significant that would impact taxpayers and their wallets. So I guess I invite the mayor to explain more behind why the date changed to the 27th being the first day, not the 5th. And you're welcome to not answer that, but I would love to give you the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, in fact, the day I saw the football schedule I sent out to the park committee, I recommend October the 5th because of the fact there's no conflict with the Browns, which really is, there's no conflict with Ted Cruz. I think Ruth already mentioned what Ted was the Fall Festival for many years. He's still a big part of it. And if Ted wants October the 5th, which he does, I would support that. And I think that's what the park committee at that meeting felt. Whatever Ted wants is what you get. The idea of not needing a rain date because you're not cooking food was another good thing, I guess. The idea that I always had a problem with 3 of our guys making $50-some an hour roasting hot dogs.
Our guys help the police.
There's that's just, many are talking to some of the mayors, many of them go to a festival with food trucks. Some of them still provide food. So for those issues, to me, it was Ted, October the 5th. Food trucks was a nice idea. I think it's time for a change. And then with food trucks, you don't need a rain date. I guess, I was a little more concerned with how to do the hay wagons, and especially after that little boy got killed, what we're going to do.
Not here,
Not here, no.
just making sure.
Some of the
In the Memorial Day.
how to handle that issue is more important to me, but I think we got that under control. But yeah, I picked the 5th just because of Ted.
Is the motion for the 27th or the 5th?
No, the motion right now is for the 28th, okay, September, with a fallback rain date of the 5th. Given, the flavor of council, okay, if it is the intent of council to support the park committee recommendation, I'm in favor of withdrawing the current motion on the table and submitting a motion which indicates support for the 5th of October.
There is maybe a compromise here. October 5th as the date, October 12th as the rain date.
Holy moly.
Granted the Brown schedule and all that, I understand.
Get the
but-
Christmas trees, get the Thanksgiving turkeys.
the playoffs may be out of sight already, but.
There was discussion at the park committee meeting, though, that the further we get into October, the more chances of
Yeah.
inclement weather as well. So that's why they weren't in favor of any rain date beyond the 5th of October, so.
Why, okay, it's been moved and seconded. Why don't we vote that first motion down and then come up with a new motion?
Why do that?
It's been moved that the Fall Festival will be held on
Why can we withdraw it?
No, you can't withdraw.
Okay.
It's seconded, yeah, let's just vote on it.
We have a first and a second.
Sorry, Danielle.
I said we had a first and second, Galicki, and then Porter seconded, so there has to be a vote.
Okay, Yep.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion fails. Okay, floor is still yours.
All right, I would like to make a motion to approve the Fall Festival 2025 for Sunday, October 5th, and to direct the members of the park committee and village employees to commence their work in organizing the vendors, party supplies, and foodstuffs in support of the Fall Festival accordingly so moved.
That's just for the October 5th.
just for October.
I'll second the motion, but I would point out in the past, at least once, maybe twice, we had a rain out.
Mhm.
And we had no backup date, no rain date. And we wound up eating. a
It's about
bunch of-
$10,000 for the fall
Yeah, it's
festival,
like 10
so.
grand because, the vendors got paid, because that was the date. We canceled. We did it, Mayor, wasn't it like that morning or the day before? They had like, a week's notice and you get your money back, but if you do it within a week, you don't get your money back. So, yeah, it was like 10 grand. So I'm in favor of a rain date at some point down the road, which the park committee can consider and perhaps recommend.
The one thing I will say about that event, didn't that precipitate us taking a look at how the contracts are written,
They have been modified.
and modify in terms of if it is canceled,
Depending on how much notice you get, some will reimburse everything, some won't reimburse anything. Like the last couple of years, it was too windy, so we still paid for the bounce houses, even though they couldn't inflate. So every contract's different.
Roger.
It is, but it costs us money when we cancel on very short notice, which was the right thing to do, but nonetheless, I understand the point about the food, the food trucks can just leave, and then if you don't have a rain date, you got all these hot dogs, what do you do with them, freeze them, give them away, something, but perhaps the, Parks Committee would reconsider the propriety of a rain date at their next meeting.
And we can,
We could add that, yeah.
Okay, the motion is the Fall Festival will be on October the 5th, and the park committee will be asked to propose a rain date. Then move
well,
and
that's not part of the motion.
No, it's just October
to set
7th.
the date.
just set the date.
I mean, as a separate matter, we will address the Parks Committee to ask them how they feel about a rain date.
Motion is for October the 5th. All those in favor say
No, I
aye.
need a second.
We don't have a second?
Second.
I think Mark was seconded it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
No, I'm voting no.
Okay, it's a 4-1. All right, thank you.
No for October 5th?
Anything else from the park committee? Just a comment. One of the things discussed at that meeting was the idea of providing funding for Ted. I think the number was $350 for him to do his apples. Cost him about $500 every fall festival. So I think that's coming, that is.
Not to mention the time in hauling the cider mill and
Cider
getting
mill.
many of his children and grandchildren to help as well,
So that'll be coming.
unpaid.
That's
I
something
don't
to
know
think.
about council, but I'd be very willing to entertain that
Oh, for sure.
motion.
Yeah,
It's no different than any other vendor,
Yeah.
right?
We've never given him anything, no.
Yeah.
We can't really do that now, can we?
no, it's not.
Right. And probably one thing we all remember is last year we had no life flight, no bouncy houses, no hay rides, and I don't think anybody complained. So
They still showed up.
we
We
still
can't keep
showed
them
up.
away.
It was a free food.
It was not.
But how would you take that?
Yeah, here, go run on the grass field.
All right, Ruth, you can't get away with this. We're back under ordinances. Can you read the ordinance for the
Yes,
salt dome?
an ordinance approving the that's solid waste management.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay,
Last
ordinance awarding the proposal for the salt storage building project to CMG Contracting LLC, subject to an acceptable contract between CMG Contracting LLC and the Village of South Russell and declaring an emergency. Move to waive readings.
So, second.
Roll call.
Glicky.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye. Move to adopt.
Second.
Glicky.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, ordinance passes. We need a motion for an executive session. Who is proposing this?
I'll do that.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to move to enter into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee pursuant to section 121.22G1 of the Ohio Revised Code, and invite into the executive session the mayor, police chief, fiscal officer, and solicitor.
Second.
I hate to go against the Park Committee.
Glicky.
Second, or aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Canton.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
we'll go into executive session in hopefully about